Hi everybody, welcome back. My name is Carrie Penny. I am the Happy Crafty Homemaker, and today we're going to be finally discussing the Target yarn. Whoo boy, you guys. So I crocheted with it, I knitted with it, I made socks with it. When I first knit and crochet with it, I had some very I wouldn't say negative feelings about it, but I had some non-positive feedback on it. I'm not sure where my blue skein is. I thought I had brought it over here, but I got it in color Jade and Mouse. Oh man, get your basic information there. Everything that follows after this moment, I want this understood first and foremost. If this yarn had come back or come out about 5 years ago, I would be using flowery language, discussing how perfect it is and how amazing it is and how the drape on it's great and how the feel of it is this. I think this kind of yarn is late to the game. We have had a massive renaissance of synthetic fibers in the mass production community that are not listed as being premium acrylics, but are premium acrylics. This would fall in the higher mid-range. It's not what I would call a premium acrylic. It is what I would say is a serviceable acrylic that is better than normal. Which is why if it had come out 5 years ago and I was doing videos 5 years ago, I would have been screaming about how amazing it is. Unfortunately, it's a little late to the game. I have not worked with my Ice Saver yarn yet. But this, as far as in the ball texture, is somewhere between Ice Saver 100 and Red Heart Super Saver, the new one. It doesn't quite feel like either one of them. There are distinct differences in the way they are plied from one another. This is plied like Red Heart, but feels like the same quality of fiber as the Ice Saver 100. Because you can buy Red Heart in a larger ball than this, or a larger skein than this, for about the same price. I believe my Target has this for $5.99 for every 219 yards, 3.5 ounces. Whereas I can regularly get Super Saver for $3.99 a skein for, it's like 400 yards for almost twice as much. I'm getting more yardage plus, yeah, for the same kind of acrylic. The new Red Heart is substantially different than old Red Heart. So if you have not used the new Olatex or whatever it is, Red Heart yarn, you really do need to try that before you judge me harshly for saying Red Heart is definitely better than normal. Red Heart with Love is too soft compared to this. This is definitely more like standard Super Saver. This is my third video today. I am getting very parched from talking. So as I start talking about pros and cons, please bear that in mind. It is going to sound far more negative in my review than it ought to. Mostly because I think this kind of yarn is late to the game, and I do think Target is asking way too much for it. That being said, my Target did finally get their crochet hooks and knitting needles, stitch markers, things like that in, and they are a relatively competitive price to the retail prices at Joann's and Michael's. They're a little bit more than my Hobby Lobby. Unfortunately, because you don't get coupons for Target like you do for Joann's, Michael's, and Hobby Lobby, the end price is more. But if you're, like, say on vacation and you need to grab something real fast, a lot of places do have Targets and they don't have craft stores. So it would be an easy place to run in and grab something really quick. If you run out of yarn on a project, this is not the worst yarn to use. I don't have the headband up here with me. That is something that I'm sending to, or the ear warmer, that is something I'm sending to Billy, and it's already in a box, and I really didn't want to pull that out. I did, however, use this as my tutorial yarn as I was walking Mary over at Mary's Crochet Chit Chat, Jackie at Jackie's Crochet Creations, and Melanie at Stitch My Lou through the construction of knitted socks. I did use this yarn in that tutorial. My first response to using this when I did the ear warmer and stuff was, if you're making amigurumi, this might actually be a yarn you love. Because when you crochet it, it squishes down really low and expands into your stitch. And when you do amigurumi, the more you can keep the holes at a minimum and keep your stuffing from peeking through, the better. That sounded like a really weird thing, I know, but the same principle applies to why I had to refilm this and why my addendum was not enough. I tried to go with my normal, the video I originally filmed 2.5 weeks ago, and do an addendum after I finished these socks, and my opinion changed dramatically after that. I still say, if you're doing amigurumi, this is the kind of yarn you are probably going to be looking for. It, like I said, it's, I mean, you see how far my finger squishes into it. It has a very nice squish when you're working with it, but it does expand into the stitches. For these socks, that was actually a huge benefit. I really liked how these feel. I did not like making them, on the other hand. There is a slightly dry stickiness to this yarn. I associate that feeling to poorly stored acrylic yarn when it gets that almost brittly sticky feeling. That's my association to it. So it's a very negative experience and a very, very negative reaction for me to this yarn. However, it could be the way my store handled the yarn. It could just be the way this yarn is unwashed. I have not washed these yet. I am very curious to see how these wash up. But when I put these on my feet, these are amazing. For slipper socks, I actually am very pleased. I was not pleased with working with it. I didn't enjoy working with it. I can see why somebody would want to use this for a project that you want to make, but it's not, for me, was not enjoyable to use. And I use a lot of acrylic. I love acrylic. I love 100% acrylic. I love my woolen acrylic blends. I love my cotton and acrylic blends now. I really did not like using this. It was squeaky. It was dry. It's got a weird feeling when you're working with it. But I'm happy with my finished objects, if that makes sense whatsoever. I still would not say this is something to run out to the store and buy tomorrow. I think you're better off overall for most people's usage going with something like the Premier Anti-Pilling, Premier Cakes if you want a gradient. I love this yarn from Hobby Lobby. I have not used my Ice Saver 100, but the basic feeling of that feels less brittle than this. So your pleasure of usage versus your pleasure in the final object is definitely, they're two different things with this yarn. If you are a person who knits and crochets for pleasure and relaxation, you really don't care about the finished object, you just enjoy the experience of making things, this is probably not the yarn for you. If you are willing to push through a project because you want the finished item and you know the finished item is going to be great, you might be able to work with this yarn better. I know this sounds incredibly harsh, but based on the yarns that are already on the market and are already mainstays and the yarn consumers' repertoire of big box yarns, this is not impressive anymore. 5 years ago, this would have been top of the line, oh my goodness, everybody can get their hands on it yarn. But now, especially with the relaunches of so many lines and this literally, for lack of better term, renaissance of acrylics. We've had, roving style of acrylics. We've got things like these and Candy Shop from Premier that are these beautiful stranded, blended. Even Scarfy from Lion Brand is it's an acrylic wool blend, I think, but it is a tonal gradient that slowly adds in the color, so you're not getting the choppy yarn breaks and transitions like you do with the Karen Cakes and the Sweet Rolls from Premier. I mean, these are both equal quality. They feel completely different. They're soft, they're luscious. I've used Candy Shop. I have not used this Red Heart one yet, but it just feels amazing to work with. The Candy Shop does. And this feels almost identical to that. I mean, like in the case here, on this one strand, you've got 3 different colored acrylics that have been applied together in this yarn. And these are things that up to 5 years ago, we only ever saw in natural fiber. You would never see that in an acrylic. You would only see that in a wool. Our acrylic manufacturing in the States and what we have available to us in the States is absolutely phenomenal. It's a completely different world than it was 5 years ago. So this to me feels too little too late as far as the quality goes. The price is not that wonderful. Like I said, it was either $4.99 or $5.99 at my store, and I can't remember which. I do have a Target card, so I do get 5% off, but that still doesn't make it run out and get it. If you just need something to use, or you're just curious, if you just want to feel it, if you just want the experience of working with it, there's nothing wrong with it, though. It's not something where I'm like, absolutely, categorically do not buy this yarn. And there are yarns like that I would just say, save your money. Don't waste your money. It's a waste of money. Not many of them. I mean, I can find a use for just about anything and see why somebody would want something for just about any yarn. But there are some that it's just literally save your money, don't bother. This one's not quite that strong. It's just the price, the quantity, the quality combined. I can see why people would want it. I can see why people will like it. There are going to be a number of people who are going to say they love this. Who manufactures it, and where can I keep getting it when Target stops using it? I can see why people would feel that way, because like I said in my original thought, it would be great for amigurumi, the way it folds just after the tension from making the stitches come off of it. The way these socks feel on my feet, I can see why somebody would be like, I really enjoy this. I really like this yarn. But there are problems with it. And I don't think it's a yarn that's really for everybody and everything. It's not as versatile, and because it's not as much fun to work with, it doesn't feel as luscious, it doesn't feel as exciting to work with. I think there are going to be a lot of people that feel very disappointed in it. And I'm coming down somewhere towards the disappointment medium. I really would have appreciated having a better experience in working with it than I had. So, sorry, Curson's over here snoring now. I wish it were better. I wish I could give it a better review. I wish I could just go on and on and on about how perfect it is and the beautiful colors, but I didn't even find the color palettes to be that exciting. Also, before I sign off here, I do want to say opinions are like armpits. We all have them. Most of them stink. So if your experience has been different with this, I would like to know. The dryness to this could also be my store stored it improperly. So if you didn't have that crunchy, squeaky yarn experience with it, I would like to know that, because I am curious, is it just my store, or is all the yarn like this? did want to check one thing on here. Yeah, to knit the pillow that they have on the cover, you need 8 balls. You're also only using a small amount, but still. Yeah, this one is made in India. So maybe it's one of the Indian manufacturers that their yarn just always kind of feels like this. Like I said, it distinctly feels in between. It feels like the base acrylic is probably very similar to the ice, but the way it's plied, the twisting in it, and everything else is very, very similar to Red Heart Super Saver. I mean, even in the way the ends fray is very, very similar to Super Savers. So it's somewhere in between the ice yarn category and Red Heart Super Saver. And that's good, bad, indifferent kind of thing. It's like working with the gumdrop. It feels a lot like Karen's Simply Soft, except it doesn't split as much. So this was interesting. It was different, and the more I used it, the more my opinion changed, but stayed the same at the same time. So I did want to give you a little bit more of a concise review, especially after I finished these socks last week, because I was really surprised at how nice these turned out. I was just using them as a tutorial, but I will actually probably use these socks now. And I have enough of the jade left to maybe do cuffs, heels, and toes in the gray, and do the body of the socks in jade too. So I wouldn't discount it. I wouldn't say absolutely not, but it's not something I would go to Target to buy. If you just happen to be there and think, oh, that's a pretty color, it might be worth it for you to try it and see how you feel about it. I think that's about it. I've already filmed 2 videos today, so I think this will probably be out sometime Monday, Tuesday, which means I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Not a weekend, a wonderful week. And I hope you guys take care. If you have used the Target yarn and had a different experience, I would love to hear about it. I did knit and crochet with it, so if you have questions, I would be more than happy to answer any questions you have. So like, comment, subscribe, do all the normal yada 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 stuff, and I hope you guys have a great week. I will see you guys real soon, and I look forward to hearing back from you. Thank you guys. Take care. Bye.